The sun was shining bright that Saturday morning, but my heart felt like it was trapped in darkness. I sat in the third row of the university auditorium, watching my daughter Emily walk across the stage in her cap and gown. Pride swelled in my chest. 22 years of sacrifices, sleepless nights, and unconditional love had led to this moment. My husband Mark sat beside me, his phone buzzing constantly. He kept checking it, barely looking up when Emily's name was called. I nudged him gently. Mark put the phone away. This is our daughter's big day. He turned to me with cold eyes I didn't recognize. We need to talk after this. Something in his tone made my stomach twist, but I pushed the feeling away. Today was about Emily, not whatever was bothering Mark. I clapped loudly as our daughter received her diploma, tears streaming down my face. She had worked so hard for this engineering degree. After the ceremony ended, families gathered outside for photos. Emily ran to us, her face glowing with joy. I hugged her tight, breathing in this perfect moment. Mark stood to the side, still on his phone. Dad, can we take a family photo? Emily asked. Mark looked up. Actually, there's something I need to say first. My heart started pounding. The way Mark was looking at me, it wasn't the face of the man I'd spent 25 years loving. It was the face of a stranger. Emily's smile faded as she noticed the tension. Mark, whatever it is, let's talk privately, I said quietly, glancing at the crowd of celebrating families around us. He shook his head. No, Sarah. I'm done hiding. I'm done pretending. People nearby started to notice. Emily's friends and their parents turned to look. My sister Janet walked over with a confused expression, standing close to Mark. Too close. My stomach dropped. I'm leaving you, Sarah, Mark announced loudly. I've been unhappy for years. I'm in love with someone else. Someone who actually understands me. Someone younger, more exciting. The world tilted. I grabbed Emily's arm to steady myself. This couldn't be happening. Not here. Not now. Not on our daughter's most important day. Dad, what are you doing? Emily's voice cracked with shock and anger. Mark barely looked at her. I'm finally being honest. Your mother and I are done. I want a divorce. Janet touched his arm gently, and suddenly everything clicked into place. The way she'd been coming over more often. The private conversations. The guilty looks. Janet, I whispered, staring at my younger sister. You. She had the decency to look down, but Mark pulled her closer. Yes, Janet and I have been together for 8 months. We're in love, Sarah. Real love. Not whatever boring routine you and I had. Emily gasped. Other families were definitely watching now. Some people had their phones out recording. This was turning into a public humiliation. My hands shook, but I forced myself to breathe. Months. While I'd been planning Emily's graduation party, taking care of Mark's elderly mother, managing our home, my husband had been sleeping with my own sister. The betrayal cut deeper than any knife. How could you? I looked at Janet, my voice breaking. I raised you after Mom died. I helped you through college. I was there for every heartbreak you ever had. Janet finally met my eyes. I'm sorry, Sarah, but we can't help who we fall in love with. Mark deserves to be happy. And I don't. The words came out as a sob. Mark stepped forward, his expression almost cruel. You stopped making me happy years ago, Sarah. You got boring. Predictable. Janet makes me feel alive again. Emily lunged toward her father, but I held her back. My daughter was shaking with rage, tears streaming down her face. You're a coward, Emily spat at her father. You couldn't even wait one day. You had to ruin my graduation. Mark shrugged. I couldn't pretend anymore, Emily. You're an adult now. You'll understand someday. I felt something shift inside me. The initial shock was fading, replaced by something colder, clearer. I looked at Mark, really looked at him, and realized I was staring at a selfish, weak man. How had I never seen it before? We'll talk about this at home, I said quietly, my voice steadier than I felt. Mark laughed. There's nothing to talk about. I'm moving in with Janet. My lawyer will contact you next week about the divorce. Oh, and Sarah, I'm going to make sure I get what I deserve from our marriage. The house, my retirement, everything I worked for. He turned to walk away, Janet trailing behind him like a puppet. But before they left, Mark looked back. By the way, you might want to check the joint account. I've already moved most of our savings somewhere safe. Can't have you being vindictive and taking everything. They disappeared into the crowd, leaving me and Emily standing there destroyed. Around us, people whispered and stared. This should have been Emily's day of triumph. Instead, it was a nightmare. But Mark had made one critical mistake. He'd underestimated me. That night, Emily and I sat in our living room in silence. She'd been crying for hours. I held her, stroking her hair like I did when she was little. My own tears had dried up. Something harder had taken their place. Mom, how are you so calm? Emily asked. I wasn't calm. Inside I was screaming. But I'd learned something important over the years. Emotion without action is just noise. And I needed to be smart about this. I'm not calm, sweetheart. I'm thinking. Emily sat up, wiping her eyes. What are you thinking about? Pulled out my laptop. Your father thinks he's won. He thinks he's humiliated me, taken everything and gotten away with it. But he forgot something important. What? I'm not the same naive girl he married 25 years ago. I've grown. I've learned. And I've been preparing for this possibility for the last 6 months. Emily's eyes widened. You knew. I nodded slowly. I suspected. I found a hotel receipt 3 months ago. Then strange charges on his credit card. Late nights at the office. The signs were all there. So I started protecting myself. I opened a folder on my laptop labeled Insurance. Inside were dozens of documents, photos, and financial records. Emily leaned closer, scanning the screen. Mom, what is all this? I smiled for the first time that day. This is justice. 6 months earlier, I'd found a receipt in Mark's jacket pocket while doing laundry. Hotel Grandview, one night premium suite. We hadn't been to any hotel together. When I confronted him, he said it was for a business meeting. But Mark worked from home as a financial consultant. He had no reason to rent a hotel room. That's when I started paying attention. Really paying attention. I noticed how he guarded his phone, how he took calls in the garage, how he started working out and buying expensive clothes. All the classic signs. So I called my friend Rebecca, a divorce attorney. She told me to document everything and protect my assets. Hope for the best, prepare for the worst, she'd said. I hired a private investigator named Thomas. He was expensive but worth every penny. Within 2 weeks, he brought me photos of Mark and Janet together. Shopping, dining, checking into hotels. The evidence was undeniable. But I didn't confront them. Instead, I followed Rebecca's advice and started moving money into accounts Mark didn't know about. I transferred half of our savings into my mother's trust fund account. Completely legal since it was money I'd inherited. I documented every asset we owned. I gathered tax returns, property deeds, bank statements, everything. I even recorded several conversations where Mark admitted to hiding income from his consulting business to avoid taxes. The morning after the graduation disaster, I woke up early. Emily was still asleep, exhausted from crying. I made coffee and called Rebecca. Sarah, I heard what happened yesterday. Are you okay? I'm better than okay. I'm ready to fight. Mark thinks he's taken everything. He has no idea what's coming. Rebecca's voice brightened. Tell me you have the evidence we discussed. All of it. Photos, financial records, recordings. Plus, he admitted in front of dozens of witnesses yesterday that he stole money from our joint account. I have at least 5 people who recorded the whole thing on their phones. Perfect. Here's what we're going to do. We talked for an hour. Rebecca explained the strategy step by step. Mark had been planning this divorce for months, probably with some cheap lawyer he found online. But he'd made crucial mistakes. He'd moved money without proper documentation. He'd confessed to adultery publicly. And he'd underestimated me. By the time we finished talking, I felt powerful. Mark thought destroying me at Emily's graduation would break me. Instead, he'd given me ammunition. I spent the rest of the morning calling people. First, I called the bank and reported the unauthorized transfer from our joint account. Since we were still legally married, Mark had no right to move money without my consent. The bank froze the account and started an investigation. Next, I changed the locks on our house. Mark showed up Tuesday afternoon, furious. He pounded on the door until I opened it, keeping the chain lock secure. What the hell, Sarah? Why can't I get in? This is my house now, Mark. You moved out, remember? You're living with Janet. His face turned red. You can't lock me out of my own house. I held up my phone, recording. Actually, I can. You abandoned the marital home. You publicly announced you were leaving. You're not a resident here anymore. If you don't leave, I'll call the police for trespassing. You crazy bit. He stopped himself, noticing the phone. You can't do this. My lawyer will destroy you. I smiled calmly, looking forward to meeting him. Oh, by the way, did you notice the bank froze our joint account? Apparently, you're under investigation for unauthorized transfer of marital assets. The bank manager sends his regards. Mark's face went white. You reported me. I reported theft. That's what you committed. You stole from a joint account without consent during an ongoing marriage. That's illegal, Mark. Funny how you didn't know that, being a financial consultant and all. I'll sue you for everything. Try it. See what happens. Mark stormed off and I closed the door. My hands were shaking, but I felt good. This was just the beginning. That evening, Janet called. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity got the better of me. Sarah, please. Can we talk? Talk. You want to talk now? After you slept with my husband behind my back for 8 months. She was crying. I'm so sorry. I never meant to hurt you. Just happened. We fell in love. Please try to understand. I laughed bitterly. Understand. Janet, I raised you. When Mom died, I was only 19, but I took care of you. I worked 2 jobs to keep you in school. I helped you with homework, taught you to drive, paid for your college. And this is how you repay me. I know. I'm horrible. But Sarah, Mark loves me. We're planning to get married as soon as the divorce is final. Something in her voice made me pause. She sounded desperate, almost scared. Janet, did Mark tell you about his financial situation? Silence. Did he tell you that he owes over $60,000 in business debt? That he's been hiding income to avoid taxes? That the IRS is investigating him? That's not true. Mark is successful. He has savings and investments. I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. Janet, Mark has been lying to you. He's broke. The only money he has is what he stole from me, and he's not keeping that. Why do you think he's suddenly so eager to marry you? You just inherited money from Uncle James, didn't you? Another silence. Longer this time. How did you know about my inheritance? Janet's voice was small now, uncertain. Because I know everything, Janet. That's what you and Mark never understood. I'm not stupid. I've been watching, listening, planning. Mark doesn't love you. He loves your money. He needs it to pay off his debts. I could hear her breathing on the other end. You're lying. You're just jealous. Am I? Ask him about the $58,000 he owes to 3 different credit card companies. Ask him about the IRS audit. Ask him why his consulting business hasn't made a profit in 2 years. Go ahead. I'll wait. Janet hung up. I knew what would happen next. She'd confront Mark and he'd lie. He'd convince her I was making everything up out of spite. But I'd planted the seed of doubt. That was enough for now. Rebecca called later that evening. Sarah, I have good news. The judge approved your emergency motion. Mark has to appear in court next Friday. He's also been ordered to return all funds he took from the joint account within 48 hours, or face criminal charges. What about the house? The house is yours. You're the primary resident, and you have documentation proving Mark abandoned it. He has no claim unless he can prove he contributed more than 50% to the mortgage, which he can't. I felt tears of relief. Thank you, Rebecca. Don't thank me yet. We still have a long fight ahead. Mark started a smear campaign. He called Emily constantly, trying to turn her against me. He told his family that I'd stolen money from him. He posted vague things on social media about toxic marriages and finally being free. But he made a mistake. He underestimated Emily. My daughter recorded every phone call he made to her. Every guilt trip, every lie, every manipulation. She documented everything and gave it to Rebecca. Mark was digging his own grave and didn't even know it. Meanwhile, Janet stopped calling. I heard through family gossip that she and Mark were fighting. Apparently, she'd asked him about the debts I mentioned, and he'd gotten angry. She was starting to see who he really was. Friday came fast. I dressed carefully for court. Professional, put together, calm. Rebecca met me outside the courthouse with a thick folder of evidence. Are you ready? She asked. I've been ready for months. Mark arrived with his lawyer, a young guy who looked nervous. Mark, on the other hand, looked confident. He thought this was just a formality. He thought he'd charm the judge, paint me as a vindictive wife, and walk away with whatever he wanted. He had no idea what was coming. The hearing started at 10. The judge, a woman in her 60s named Judge Patricia Morrison, listened as Rebecca outlined our case. Your Honor, this is a case of financial abuse, adultery, and abandonment. Mr. Harrison has systematically stolen marital assets, engaged in an extramarital affair with the plaintiff's sister, and publicly humiliated his wife at their daughter's graduation ceremony. Mark's lawyer stood up. Your Honor, my client simply withdrew money from a joint account to which he had equal access. As for the affair, while regrettable, adultery is not illegal in this state. My client has the right to pursue happiness. Judge Morrison raised an eyebrow. Counselor, did your client inform Mrs. Harrison before withdrawing funds? Well, no, but... And did your client publicly announce the end of the marriage before filing any legal paperwork? Mark's lawyer shuffled papers nervously. He announced his intentions, yes. At his daughter's graduation. In front of witnesses. While simultaneously confessing to adultery. The judge's tone was ice cold. She looked at Mark with obvious disgust. Mr. Harrison, stand up. Mark stood, still looking confident. Did you or did you not withdraw $38,000 from a joint account without your wife's knowledge or consent? I withdrew my money, Your Honor. Half of that account was mine. Wrong answer. During a marriage, joint assets require mutual consent for large withdrawals. You stole money, Mr. Harrison. You're lucky your wife is only seeking civil remedies and hasn't pressed criminal charges. Mark's confidence started to crack. Judge Morrison continued. Furthermore, I have reviewed the evidence submitted by Mrs. Harrison's attorney. Photos documenting your affair, financial records showing hidden income, and testimony from your own daughter describing your manipulative behavior. She held up a document. I also have a recording of you admitting to moving money, somewhere safe, to prevent your wife from accessing it. That's called dissipation of marital assets, and it's illegal. Mark's face went pale. His lawyer whispered something to him urgently. Your Honor, the lawyer said weakly, my client acted emotionally. He was in distress. He didn't understand the legal implications. Your client is a financial consultant. He knew exactly what he was doing. Judge Morrison's voice was sharp. Here's my ruling. Mr. Harrison, you will immediately return all funds taken from the joint account plus 15% interest for penalties. You will have no claim to the marital home, as you publicly abandoned it. All marital assets will be divided according to contribution, And since Mrs. Harrison can prove she contributed more to the household over 25 years, she will receive 65% of all assets. What? Mark shouted. That's not fair. Sit down, Mr. Harrison. I'm not finished. The judge glared at him until he sat. Furthermore, you will pay all court costs and attorney fees for both parties. You will also pay spousal support of $3,000 per month for 5 years. Do you understand? Mark looked like he might throw up. Your Honor, my client can't afford $3,000 a month, his lawyer protested. Judge Morrison smiled coldly. Then perhaps he shouldn't have spent 8 months conducting an expensive affair. According to these hotel receipts, Mr. Harrison had no problem spending $4,000 a month on premium suites, fancy restaurants, and gifts for his mistress. She stamped the papers. Ruling stands. Court dismissed. Rebecca and I walked out in triumph. Behind us, I could hear Mark arguing with his lawyer, his voice rising in panic. Outside, Emily was waiting. She hugged me tight. Mom, you did it. We did it, honey. This is just the beginning. Mark stormed out of the courthouse, his face red with rage. He saw me and marched over, his lawyer trying to hold him back. You vindictive witch. You planned this whole thing. I protected myself, Mark. Just like you tried to protect yourself. The difference is, I did it legally. I'll appeal. I'll fight this. Rebecca stepped forward. Please do. We have more evidence we didn't even need to use today. Keep fighting and we'll bury you. Mark looked between us, realizing he'd lost. Completely lost. He turned and walked away, defeated. That night, Emily and I celebrated with pizza and ice cream. For the first time in 6 months, I felt like I could breathe. The divorce wasn't final yet, but the hard part was over. Over the next few weeks, things fell apart for Mark. The IRS investigation I'd mentioned to Janet was real. I'd reported his hidden income months ago. They audited his business and found years of tax evasion. He owed over $80,000 in back taxes and penalties. Janet finally broke up with him. She called me one night crying. Sarah, you were right. He only wanted my inheritance. When I told him I was investing it in a trust fund he couldn't access, he lost it. He called me terrible names. I'm so sorry. I was so stupid. I wanted to be angry with her. Part of me still was. But she was my sister. Janet, what he did to you, using you, manipulating you, that's not your fault. What you did to me, that's different. That I can't forgive yet. But I hope you learned something. I did. I'm so sorry, Sarah. I'll spend the rest of my life making it up to you. Maybe someday we can rebuild our relationship. But not now. I need time. She understood. We hung up and I felt a weight lift. Forgiveness wasn't about her. It was about me letting go of the anger that was eating me alive. Mark tried to negotiate the divorce settlement, but Rebecca shut him down every time. He had no leverage, no money, no evidence, nothing. The divorce was finalized 3 months after that terrible day at Emily's graduation. I got the house, most of our savings, and the support payments. Mark got a studio apartment and a mountain of debt. 6 months after the divorce, I was doing better than I ever imagined. I started a small online business selling handmade jewelry, something I'd always wanted to do but never had time for. It was successful, bringing in extra income and giving me a creative outlet. Emily was thriving too. She got a job at a top engineering firm and moved into her own apartment. We talked every day. Our relationship was stronger than ever. One Saturday afternoon, Emily called me. Mom, you need to see this. See what? Dad's Facebook post. It's wow. I logged onto Facebook, something I rarely did. Mark had posted a long message about how the divorce had destroyed him financially and emotionally. He blamed me for everything. He called me manipulative and cruel. He painted himself as the victim. The comments section was brutal. Not for me, for him. People who'd been at the graduation had commented. They shared their videos of Mark's announcement. They talked about how he'd humiliated me publicly. Old friends defended me, sharing stories of how I'd supported Mark's career for years while raising Emily alone because he was always working. Even Janet had commented, "Mark, you lied to both of us. You used me to hurt Sarah. Stop playing the victim. You brought this on yourself." I read through the comments, amazed. People saw through his lies. His attempt to smear me had backfired completely. Mark deleted the post within hours, but screenshots had already spread. His reputation was destroyed. His consulting business, which relied on trust and references, collapsed. No one wanted to work with a man who'd cheated on his wife with her sister and then tried to steal her money. I should have felt happy about his downfall. Instead, I felt nothing. Mark had become irrelevant to my life. His suffering didn't make me feel better because I'd already moved on. One evening, I was in my studio working on a new jewelry design when the doorbell rang. I opened it to find a man around my age, holding flowers. "Sarah, I'm David Chen. We met briefly at Emily's graduation. I'm Professor Chen from the engineering department." I remembered him. He'd approached me after Mark's public humiliation, offering quiet support and his card if I ever needed anything. "Professor Chen, what can I do for you?" He smiled warmly. "Please call me David. I wanted to check on you. I know it's been a few months, but that day was... well, it was terrible. I hoped you were doing okay." I invited him in. We talked for hours. David was a widower, having lost his wife to cancer 3 years earlier. He was kind, intelligent, and genuinely interested in my life. He admired my jewelry and asked thoughtful questions about my business. "I should go," he said eventually, checking his watch. "But Sarah, would you like to have dinner sometime?" "No pressure. I'd enjoy getting to know you better." I hesitated. I hadn't thought about dating. The idea seemed impossible after everything with Mark. But looking at David's honest, open face, I realized something important. Mark's betrayal didn't define me. It didn't mean I was unlovable or that all men were like him. "I'd like that," I said. David's face lit up. "Really? That's wonderful. How about Friday?" We went to dinner that Friday. Then again the next week. David was patient, never pushing, always respectful. He made me laugh. He listened when I talked about my fears and hopes. He celebrated my successes with genuine joy. Slowly I started to trust again. To believe that happiness wasn't something that had ended with my marriage. It was something that could be rebuilt. Different but maybe even better. Emily loved David. "Mom, he looks at you the way Dad should have looked at you all along. Like you're the most important person in the world." 1 year after the divorce, David and I were officially together. He proposed on a beach at sunset, something simple and perfect. Said yes. Mark heard about it through Emily. He called her angry and bitter. "How can she move on so fast? I'm still struggling." Emily, my brave, fierce daughter, finally told him what she'd been holding back. "Dad, you're struggling because you destroyed everything. Mom moved on because she never stopped being strong. You were supposed to love her, protect her, and stand by her. Instead, you betrayed her in the worst way possible. You made your choices, Dad. Mom made hers. She chose to survive, to thrive, to find happiness again. What did you choose? You chose to be selfish, cruel, and dishonest. These are the consequences." Mark tried to argue, but Emily hung up. She was done protecting his feelings. We all were. The wedding was small and beautiful, just close friends and family. Emily was my maid of honor. She gave a toast that made everyone cry. "My mom is the strongest person I know. She faced betrayal and humiliation but never lost her dignity. She protected herself without becoming bitter. She fought back without losing her kindness. Mom, you taught me what real strength looks like. I love you." I looked around at the people celebrating with us. These were people who genuinely cared, who'd supported me through the darkest times. This was my real family. David and I honeymooned in Italy. It was magical. He treated me like I was precious, valuable, and worth protecting. I'd forgotten what that felt like. We returned home to our new life together. David moved into my house. Our house now. We blended our lives seamlessly. He respected my independence and encouraged my dreams. My jewelry business grew. I hired 2 employees and opened a small storefront. Emily's career flourished. She was dating a wonderful man who treated her well. Life was good. Really genuinely good. 2 years after the divorce, I heard that Mark was engaged again. To a woman 15 years younger whom he'd met online. According to gossip, she had money and was paying off his debts. I felt nothing but pity for her. She had no idea what she was getting into. Janet and I had slowly started rebuilding our relationship. It would never be what it was, but we were civil. She'd learned hard lessons about trust and betrayal. She was in therapy working on herself. "I was so jealous of you," she admitted one day over coffee. "You had everything, a husband, a daughter, a home. I was alone. When Mark paid attention to me, I felt special. I didn't think about the cost. Sorry, Sarah. I'll always be sorry." I reached across the table and took her hand. "I forgive you, Janet. Not for you. For me." Holding on to anger was poisoning my happiness. I can forgive you and still have boundaries. We're sisters and that matters. But things are different now. She nodded, tears in her eyes. Different is okay. Thank you. One evening, David and I were cooking dinner together when Emily called, excited. "Mom, I'm engaged. Ryan proposed." I screamed with joy. My baby was getting married. To a good man who loved her. David hugged me as I cried happy tears. "Can you believe it?" asked him. 3 years ago, my life was falling apart at her graduation. Now she's getting married. David kissed my forehead. "You rebuilt everything. You took your pain and turned it into power. You're remarkable, Sarah." Planning Emily's wedding was pure joy. She wanted something elegant and traditional. I helped with every detail, loving every minute. This time there would be no drama. No betrayal. Just love and celebration. Mark called Emily when he heard about the engagement. "I'd like to walk you down the aisle. I'm still your father." Emily's voice was firm. "No, Dad. You gave up that right when you destroyed our family. David is walking me down the aisle. He's been more of a father to me these past 3 years than you ever were." Mark argued, but Emily wouldn't budge. She'd found her strength too. The wedding day arrived. A perfect spring morning. Emily looked like a princess in her white dress. David stood beside her, proud and emotional. I watched from the front row, David holding my hand. This was what family should be. Support, love, trust. Everything Mark had thrown away. Emily and Ryan exchanged vows. Their love obvious to everyone watching. During the reception, Emily pulled me aside. "Mom, I need to tell you something." Dad showed up outside the church. He tried to get in, but security stopped him. He was yelling about his rights as a father. My heart sank. "Oh, honey. I'm so sorry." Emily shook her head. "Don't be." "I'm not." Security escorted him away. "He can't hurt us anymore, Mom." She was right. Mark couldn't hurt us anymore because we didn't give him that power. He'd become a cautionary tale in our family. A reminder of what happens when you choose selfishness over love. The reception was magical. David and I danced, surrounded by people who genuinely cared about us. I looked at Emily, radiant and happy. I thought about how far we'd come. That terrible day at her graduation had felt like the end of everything. Mark's cruel announcement. Janet's betrayal. The public humiliation. I'd wanted to disappear, to give up. But I'd chosen differently. Chosen to fight. To protect myself and my daughter. To rebuild from the ashes of my broken marriage. And now, 3 years later, I was happier than I'd ever been. I had a thriving business, a loving husband, a strong daughter, and a future full of possibilities. Mark, on the other hand, was alone. His new engagement had fallen apart when his fiancée discovered his debts and tax problems. His reputation was ruined. His relationship with Emily was destroyed. He'd lost everything he claimed to value. That was the thing about betrayal. It always costs more than people think. Mark thought he could have his affair, take my money, and live happily ever after. He never imagined there would be real consequences. But there always are. Last month I saw Mark at a grocery store. He looked older, tired, defeated. He was alone, his cart nearly empty. When our eyes met, I saw something in his face, regret maybe. Or just the realization of everything he'd lost. I could have gloated. I could have thrown his failures in his face. But I didn't. I simply nodded politely and kept walking. He wasn't worth my energy anymore. David was waiting for me at the car. Was that him? Yeah. How do you feel? I thought about it carefully. I feel free. He can't affect me anymore. His opinions don't matter. His presence doesn't hurt. I'm just free. David kissed me. Good. You deserve that freedom. That night I reflected on my journey. The pain, the anger, the slow process of healing. I thought about the woman I'd been 3 years ago. Scared, hurt, humiliated. And the woman I was now, strong, independent, happy. Mark's betrayal had broken me temporarily. But it had also revealed my strength. It taught me that I didn't need him to be complete. That I could survive anything. That I was enough all by myself. Finding David had been wonderful. But even before him, I'd been rebuilding. I'd been creating a life I loved. David had enhanced my happiness, not created it. I started speaking at women's groups about my experience. Not to bash Mark, but to empower other women facing similar situations. I talked about the importance of protecting yourself financially. About recognizing warning signs. About healing and moving forward. You are not defined by someone else's betrayal, I told these women. You are defined by how you respond to it. You can choose to be a victim or you can choose to be a survivor. I chose survival and it changed everything. My story resonated with so many people. Women who felt trapped in bad marriages. Women who'd been betrayed and didn't know how to move forward. Women who thought they were too old or too broken to start over. I showed them it was possible that life could be better on the other side of divorce. That happiness wasn't something that ended. It was something that transformed. Emily started a blog about her experience as the child of divorced parents. She wrote honestly about the pain of watching her father betray her mother. About choosing sides. About healing those relationships over time. My dad made terrible choices, she wrote. But they taught me what not to do. They taught me the value of integrity, loyalty, and real love. I'm grateful for the lessons, even if I'm not grateful for the pain. Her words were powerful, honest, healing. Together, Emily and I were turning our trauma into something meaningful. 5 years have passed since that terrible graduation day. 5 years since Mark announced he was leaving me in front of everyone we knew. 5 years since my world shattered. Looking back now, I see that day differently. Yes, it was cruel, humiliating, devastating. But it was also the beginning of my real life. The life where I stopped settling. Where I stopped making myself small to make someone else comfortable. Where I discovered my own strength. Mark did me a favor, though he'll never understand that. He freed me from a marriage that was slowly killing my spirit. He showed me who he really was. And who I really was. I'm not grateful for the betrayal. But I'm grateful for what I became because of it. Last week, Emily told me she's pregnant. I'm going to be a grandmother. David and I celebrated with champagne and tears. A new generation. New possibilities. New love. My business is thriving. My marriage is strong. My daughter is happy. My life is full of purpose and joy. And Mark. He's remarried again to someone who doesn't know his history. I heard through family that he hasn't changed. Still selfish. Still entitled. Still blaming everyone else for his problems. But he's not my problem anymore. He's not even my concern. He's just a chapter in my story. The chapter that taught me how strong I could be. 10 years after the graduation disaster, I stood in my beautiful gallery downtown. What had started as a small jewelry business had grown into something beyond my wildest dreams. My designs were now featured in boutiques across 3 states, and I'd just been invited to showcase my work at a prestigious art festival in New York. David stood beside me, his arm around my waist, as we watched our granddaughter Lily play with Emily and Ryan. She was 3 years old, with Emily's eyes and my smile. Watching her laugh filled my heart with a joy I couldn't put into words. "Can you believe this is our life?" David whispered. I shook my head, smiling. "Sometimes I still can't." The gallery was hosting an event for my new collection, inspired by transformation and renewal. Each piece told a story of change, growth, and resilience. The centerpiece was a phoenix rising from flames, crafted from silver and embedded with fire opals. A reporter from a local magazine approached me. "Mrs. Chen, your collection is stunning. The theme of transformation is so powerful. What inspired it?" I looked at David, then at Emily and Lily. "Life inspired it. 10 years ago, I went through the darkest period of my existence. I was betrayed by people I trusted completely. I lost everything I thought defined me. My marriage, my sister's loyalty, my sense of security." The reporter leaned in, interested. "How did you move forward?" I realized something crucial. I wasn't lost. I was freed. The life I thought I wanted was actually holding me back from the life I deserved. So I rebuilt. Not the same way, but better. Stronger. More authentically me. Emily joined us, Lily on her hip. "My mom taught me the most important lesson," she told the reporter. "People will show you who they are. Believe them. And when they do, protect yourself, but don't let their choices make you bitter." The reporter smiled. "That's beautiful. Do you still have contact with your father?" Emily's expression remained neutral. "Limited contact. He's reached out over the years, mostly when he needs something. I've learned to set boundaries. I can wish him well without letting him hurt me again. That's growth." After the reporter left, Janet appeared at the gallery entrance. We'd slowly rebuilt our relationship over the past decade, though it would never be what it once was. She'd done the work. Therapy, genuine apologies, changed behavior. I'd learned that forgiveness didn't mean forgetting, but it did mean releasing the poison of hatred. "Sarah, this is incredible," Janet said, looking around at my work. "You've built something amazing." "We all have," I replied. "You're doing well too. How's the non-profit going?" Janet had started an organization helping women escape abusive relationships. Her own experience with Mark, the manipulation, the lies, the using, had opened her eyes to patterns she'd ignored her whole life. Now she helped others see those patterns before it was too late. It's growing. We helped 15 women this month find safe housing and legal support. Her eyes were bright with purpose. "I can't undo what I did to you, Sarah. But maybe I can prevent other sisters from making the same mistake." As the evening wound down, an unexpected guest arrived. Mark stood at the gallery entrance, looking uncomfortable and out of place. He'd aged significantly. His hair mostly gray now, his face lined with stress and poor choices. David tensed beside me. "Want me to handle this?" I squeezed his hand. "No, I've got this." I walked over to Mark, my head held high. "Mark, this is a surprise." "Sarah, I heard about your success. I wanted to see it for myself." He looked around the gallery, taking in the elegant space, the beautiful artwork, the wealthy patrons admiring my pieces. "You've done well." "I have." Awkward silence stretched between us. Finally Mark spoke again. "I wanted to apologize. For everything. For how I treated you. For that day at Emily's graduation. I was cruel." I studied his face. He looked genuinely regretful, but I'd learned long ago that Mark's emotions were often self-serving. "Why now, Mark? Why after 10 years?" He shifted uncomfortably. "Because I see now what I threw away. My marriage is falling apart. My daughter barely speaks to me. I'm struggling financially. And you're thriving. I realized I made the biggest mistake of my life. There was a time when hearing those words would have meant everything to me. When I would have desperately wanted him to see his error, to acknowledge my worth, to regret losing me. But that time was long past. Mark, I appreciate the apology. Do. But you need to understand something important. Kept my voice calm, factual. Your regret isn't about me. It's about you facing consequences for your choices. You're not sorry you hurt me. You're sorry your life didn't turn out the way you planned. His face flushed. That's not fair. It's completely fair. If your life was wonderful right now, you wouldn't be here. You'd still think you made the right choice. The problem is that you expected your betrayal to lead to happiness, and it didn't. But that's not my concern anymore. Sarah, please. Can't we? No. I cut him off firmly but not unkindly. We can't. You made your choices. Made mine. We're both living with the results. The difference is that I chose growth, love, and integrity. You chose betrayal, selfishness, and shortcuts. Those choices have consequences. Emily approached, Ryan beside her. Dad, you need to leave. This is Mom's night. You don't get to ruin another important moment. Mark looked at his daughter, seeing the strength and conviction in her eyes. The same eyes that had once looked at him with unconditional love. Now they held only firm boundaries and hard-won wisdom. Emily, I want to be part of your life. Part of Lily's life. Then prove it. Through actions, not words. Show up consistently. Stop the drama. Respect Mom's boundaries and her happiness. Maybe then we can talk about having a real relationship. After Mark left, David wrapped me in his arms. You handled that perfectly. I leaned into him. I've had a lot of practice setting boundaries. The evening concluded successfully. I'd sold 12 pieces, including the Phoenix centerpiece. A major department store wanted to carry my collection. Magazine features were being scheduled. Professionally, I was soaring. But the real success wasn't the money or recognition. It was the peace I felt. The genuine happiness. The knowledge that I'd survived the fire and emerged stronger, wiser, and more authentically myself. That night, lying in bed beside David, I reflected on the journey. From the humiliation at the graduation to this moment of triumph. It hadn't been easy. There were days I'd wanted to give up. Nights I'd cried myself to sleep. Moments when the pain felt unbearable. But I'd kept going. One day at a time. One choice at a time. One boundary at a time. What are you thinking about? David asked softly. About how Mark thought destroying me publicly would break me. But instead it freed me. He thought taking my money would leave me helpless. But it taught me to protect myself. He thought I'd fall apart without him. But I discovered I was stronger alone than I ever was with him. David kissed my forehead. He never saw who you really were. No, he saw who he wanted me to be. Small, dependent, controllable. But that was never really me. I just forgot myself for a while. The next morning Emily called. Mom, I need to tell you something. After Dad left last night I felt sad. Not for him but for what could have been. For the father he should have been. That's normal, honey. Grief isn't always about what was lost. Sometimes it's about what never was. Exactly. But then I looked at David playing with Lily, and Ryan teaching her to draw, and you building this incredible business, and I realized something. I got the family I needed, even if it wasn't the family I started with. Her words touched me deeply. We all did. And Mom, thank you. For showing me that betrayal doesn't have to destroy you. That you can face the worst and come out better. You gave me a blueprint for resilience. After we hung up, I sat in my studio looking at my latest design. It was a butterfly emerging from a cocoon, symbolizing transformation. The cocoon was dark, tight, confining. The butterfly was brilliant, free, soaring. That's what my journey had been. Mark's betrayal had been the cocoon, painful, dark, suffocating, but necessary. Because without that darkness, I never would have discovered my wings. I thought about the woman I was 10 years ago. Devastated, humiliated, broken. If I could go back and tell her anything, it would be this. You're going to survive this. More than survive, you're going to thrive. The pain you feel right now is temporary. The strength you're about to discover is permanent. Mark's attempt to destroy me had become my origin story. Not of revenge. I'd never sought to hurt him back. But of transformation. Of discovering that my worth wasn't tied to his opinion of me. That my happiness didn't depend on his presence. That I was complete, whole, and valuable entirely on my own. The screaming Mark had done. That day in court when the judge ruled against him. The phone calls to Emily filled with rage and desperation. The angry messages about how unfair life was. All of it was the sound of a man facing consequences he never imagined. He'd thought he could have it all. The affair, the money, the new life, and somehow still maintain respect and family connections. He'd thought his actions wouldn't matter because he'd always gotten away with selfishness before. But this time was different. This time I'd fought back. Not with cruelty or revenge, but with strategy, boundaries, and self-respect. And that made all the difference. Today I teach workshops for women going through divorce. I share my story not to glorify my victory over Mark, but to empower others to protect themselves. To recognize warning signs. To document everything. To get good legal counsel. To never let someone else's betrayal convince them they're worthless. You are not what was done to you, I tell these women. You are how you respond to it. You can be a victim or you can be a victor. The choice is yours. My jewelry now carries messages. Each piece includes a small card with words of empowerment. You are enough. Your worth is inherent. Betrayal reveals character, both theirs and yours. From ashes we rise. Women wear my designs as reminders of their own strength. I get letters and messages daily from women who've left toxic relationships, started businesses, gone back to school, or simply learned to love themselves again. That's the real victory. Not that Mark lost, but that I and now countless others won. 10 years later, standing in my gallery, surrounded by evidence of everything I've built, I finally understand the truth about that terrible graduation day. Mark didn't leave me. He freed me. He removed himself from my life, making room for everything beautiful that followed. David, my thriving business, deeper relationship with Emily, my work helping other women, authentic happiness. None of it would have been possible if I'd stayed in that dead marriage, making myself small, accepting betrayal as normal, believing I wasn't worthy of more. Mark's cruelty was a gift wrapped in pain. And while I wouldn't wish that pain on anyone, I'm grateful for where it led me. Because on the other side of betrayal lies the possibility of becoming who you were always meant to be. And that person, she's stronger than anyone ever imagined. Sometimes the worst thing that happens to you becomes the best thing that ever happened. Not because the pain wasn't real, but because you chose to transform it into power. This is not a story about revenge. It's a story about resilience, self-respect, and the unbreakable strength of a woman who refused to be defined by someone else's betrayal.